That's okay. So Josh Appelbaum, André, Nemec, and Scott Rosenberg. So we don't have enough seats yet. I'm going to stand, but I think everybody's about to get a seat. And then from the cast, Odette, Annable, Geoff Stults, Rebecca Field, and Jay Paulson. Hello. Wait, it's the most awkward theater because it's the longest flight of stairs ever. Yes. Thank you guys so much for being here. I'm curious, we'll just start talking as they make their way up. How long has it been since you three have watched October Road?
24 hours.
Did you watch this episode?
I actually did. I didn't know you were showing it, so I watched it. I was in Portland, Josh was in LA, and he texted me. He was like, I just watched an episode of the show in preparation for this, and I expected to be really mortified, but it was really good. And I couldn't sleep, and so I watched like 3 of them. It's really good.
It is so good. I think that, I was thinking back when the show was on, I was talking to my best friend, and both of us were like, oh, we loved this show. Why did it go away? It was on for so short of time. I'm assuming that's what y'all felt too, right?
Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal seeing it go away. It was like, I think it was the writer's strike happened 10 years ago, and that sort of screwed everything up, and it just went poof and vanished.
It was the writers, we should blame it on the writer's strike?
Well, that's what
we can blame it on low ratings, but you can blame it on the low ratings. We'll blame it on the writers' strike.
The first season was 6 episodes, and they ran it after Grey's Anatomy, and it did really, really well because of Grey's Anatomy. And then they got a little cocky, and the second season they premiered us. It was by ourselves. We had a shitty lead-in, but they premiered us on Thanksgiving. Like, this was the great experiment in television history. Let's prepare when nobody feels like watching TV. Everybody's full. Everybody's drunk. Let's premiere this show. And so it was downhill from there, pretty much. I'm Scott Rosenberg, by the way. I don't know if everybody introduced now that we're up here. But.
Now, well, we can. Do you want to go? Josh. We have André, Scott, Odette. We have Rebecca, Jay, and Geoff. I was like trying to say Geoff Stults all together. I was like Jolts. I don't know. I did want to ask Scott if this is true or not.
We don't have a chair for you.
It's coming. It's coming.
Like put the handsome guy at the far end. That's good production.
Scott, when I was reading on Wikipedia, so who knows if it's true, but it all made sense, and I didn't know this when I first watched the show. This was loosely based. You wrote Beautiful Girls, and it did have which is an amazing film, and it did have a tie-in in a way because it was loosely based off your experiences.
I wrote Beautiful Girls. It was entirely based on my friends. They loved it at first, and then they kind of didn't love it, and just the way they were portrayed. And when Gary Fleeter, who actually directed the pilot, he was meeting with Steve McPherson, who was the head of ABC at the time, and he said, Beautiful Girls is my favorite movie. Is there any way to do a TV version of it? And Gary told me, I told the guys, and we came up with, it's amazing. I exploited my friends twice, because then we really came up with the idea of the guy who wrote the book and it did the thing, and so it's like once my friends from home recovered from the Beautiful Girls of it all, then they had to face the October Road of it all. But yeah, it was very much based on that.
Yeah, now we can I feel bad that I can't really see you guys, but y'all as a cast, it just felt real. Like you guys really felt like people in my life, and you guys were great. And I think a lot of girls in this theater probably really relate to your character, Rebecca. Like Janet was. I think I don't see her on television a lot, like somebody who I feel is very much, a lot of us probably, that have insecurities and don't think we can get the hot guy, and you do. You weren't in a time of, Twitter. So, did you have a lot of girls coming up to you?
Oh, yeah. Now we've got, This Is Us, and Chrissy Metz is blowing up and breaking out, and before her and I was like Cameron Manheim and all these people, but this was the first time that I've seen on television where it was like someone that was normal and could, you know, a lot of people could relate to having that kind of love story. And I think it really did resonate with people. I had a lot of people come up to me at the time, and still 10 years later, you know, we were joking like, oh, is anyone gonna be here? But 10 years later, I mean, people, you know, they still are like love that it was such a genuine, it was just about the relationships and that they were just, didn't matter what you looked like, it was about the connection.
Well, yeah, and you got to do a happy twirl, which I'm so happy we got to see in this episode. And Odette, I loved your character because while you were the youngest in the friend group, you were so smart. Right? You weren't
what I
playing
loved
just
about my character.
the college girl in love with Nick. You were the smart one.
I was the smart one. They put me through a hell of an audition process, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, tell us about it.
I was 18 or 19 at the time, and the audition came in, and I didn't recognize half of the words that were on the page, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go for this. And I loved the character so much, and we went through probably, 4 or 5 rounds of auditions, and you know, I sat down with these guys and we talked about the character, and then I tested twice for the role. I went in and it was a room sort of like this. It felt like, to me at least, there was a spotlight, and it's so nerve-wracking. There's a bunch of suits in front of you and you can't really see anything, and I was 18 and so nervous, and I really wanted the role, and then I did it, and I was like, yes, I did it. I walked out, a couple other girls went in, and then they called me back in. I was like, no, don't do this to me. But do you remember that? I went in, and then I got the role, and then we were off to Atlanta. I loved Aubrey because she was super young, but she was so smart and well beyond her years. And I think she, you know, as well, we only shot 18 episodes, but she just always got it. She was so wise and so, you know, I don't know, well beyond her years. And I'm just so happy to be here, you guys. I cried almost through the whole thing.
And Jay, I love that we had a lot of the air band. Was that as fun to shoot as it looked like when you watched it? Because there's a lot of it throughout the show, and I also want to know why. Maybe one of you three, like where that. No, I love it, but that must be a real thing too. So yeah, did y'all just like jam all the time, and do you still jam? Do you guys tour?
We don't still jam, sadly, but it was an absolute blast to do.
Yeah.
And who doesn't want to rock out with a hairbrush to their favorite songs? It was incredible.
Yeah.
We loved doing it.
Yeah. Where did that idea come from? I can pass a mic.
I used to do it all the time with my friends.
Oh yeah? What did you guys sing?
And the fact that
what did you guys cover?
Everything. But the fact that this was my first real. I was a movie writer, and this was my first real television show. And the fact, and it's funny because I remember because my movie career was going very well at the time, and I remember doing an interview and somebody said, "Look, why are you doing television?" And I said, "I'll tell you exactly why. Because as a writer in movies, you're kind of not ever the boss, and in television you do whatever the hell you want." And I said, "I'll tell you exactly why. The other day I was driving in my car, and Meatloaf's Paradise by the Dashboard Light came on, and I was thinking to myself, I'm going to build an entire episode of television around this song." And literally 2 weeks later, we were shooting it. And so it was the same thing. Like the fact that these guys, I wanted to do the air band in every single episode.
More air
These
band.
guys were like, we would have been canceled even sooner.
And Geoff, I mean, Eddie Lateca, I think, is like, you played the guy that every girl wanted to date. I mean, that character, every
He is
girl.
the guy that every girl
well,
wants
you
to
are the guy, yeah. But Eddie Lateca is, everybody has him in their life. Did you feel up for the role? Is that your life?
We can answer for him.
Okay, all right, you answer for him.
Yes.
I know, it's
Kind
embarrassing.
of got me on that one. I don't think honestly, I'm not big on watching myself because I annoy myself when I see myself on screen. I don't know if I ever saw that episode, so I got a little emotional up there.
Yeah. You went through all the emotions in that episode. You had to be very angry and then really real at the end. I mean, you cried and you almost threw a punch.
That's pretty much my everyday. Yeah, I cry a lot and almost throw punches. this was just such a fun time for all of us. It was such a fun time in our lives, I think. Yeah, it's just so many random, like, wild emotions of that, just seeing all that together. But yeah, we kind of this isn't like more for us. You guys are gonna be bored about this shit. But like, you know, we any chance we get to get together. It's all like it's 10 years later, guys. Like we should stop talking about this fucking show, but that's all we do. It's all like it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like you know we've worked since then, but all we do is talk about this show. And yeah, this is not answering the question at all, but I'm telling you guys that it was just like this first season. That was the finale. The first season it was like it was 6 quick episodes. We all moved to Atlanta. We all lived in the same apartment, except one of us didn't live in the same place. Well, he found a deal outside of town. But so yeah. And by the way, being around this, like, it was good for Jay to get away from us because all we did was talk about. We were shooting the show, and all we did was talk about the show and how great it was, and we were nostalgic about a show that hadn't even aired yet. Constantly. So I don't know. I'm just I had such a great experience on this, and it really kind of informed my very much like it was the next 10 years of my life, my friendships, the people that you know that we all still see each other. Not every day, obviously. I mean, these 3 jackasses have a company together, so they see each other all the time, but they still can't get away. I mean, it's poor Andre's like, really, we're talking about October Road again. And then
Josh and I will talk about October forever.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, I think it's important to say, and you can speak to the specifics, but it was a very, very tortured development. Like I don't even remember we shot a pilot.
Yeah, we shot the pilot and it didn't get picked up.
Right.
I mean, right. And that's right. It was a different Janet in the original pilot who we recast, but the show didn't get picked up. Flat out, didn't go to the upfronts. We were in torment. Scott roamed the streets of Los Angeles, despondent for weeks. And they had to do this whole crazy deal where they got co-financing from an outside company and
Peter Tortorici
and what was it called? Mindshare?
Mindshare.
Yeah, that's why we premiered mid-season. And so every step of the way, it was the little engine that could. And so
because of the subject matter, and because all these the cast was in a lot of them in like sort of a nascent part of their careers, and we went through it was like Vietnam. It was like just we're gonna get picked up. We're not gonna
cut to the Vietnam vet saying "fuck you guys."
I can say that as a Vietnam vet. I'm allowed to say that. It's politically correct. No, but seriously, it was so tortured, the whole thing, and we got so close through the process, you know, and I think that's why we have such fond memories. And also, it's such a unique bird because it's like it's not a medical show. It's not a.
It's a show about guys that own the window shop.
It's a show about.
If you wonder why we got canceled,
right.
Well, I do want to ask. I mean, for me, I love shows like this, and I feel like they're few and far between. I do feel like there's more medical shows and those are all wonderful as well. But why is it the shows about real people and real friends where maybe not a ton of stuff happens, you know, like cliffhangers, all that. Well, a ton of stuff happened in that episode. You killed it. But you know, it's more about the relationships. Why? And André, I'll hand you the mic. Why is it that why do these shows not last longer?
I don't know why they don't last longer, but I do know that, like, it's what we talked about a little bit earlier today, the idea of feeling like you're hanging out with your friends and, like, kind of checking in with a group of friends once a week, the people that you know and that you love. And I think it reminds a lot of people of their own lives and their own friends and maybe their lost loves and lost friendships. But I think that's why, I know it's why we're drawn to shows like this, because it is really, I mean, it was about a window shop, but it's about... I mean, it was, but it didn't hinge on a big murder mystery or, I mean, it was who was Sam's dad, but that was enough of an idea to rally all of these people in this town around it and to sort of dig into the relationships that they had. And I do think, to the credit of all the actors on the show, they were all lovable and adorable in their own way, that you wanted to spend time with them. They were like the group of friends that you wished you could hang out with all the time.
I think part of why, I think, again, remember, it was 10 years ago, and there were fewer networks. The stakes were so much higher. Again, like it's the thing everybody says. If we had the ratings now that we had then, we'd be the hottest show on television. So it was just at the time the stakes were so much higher. It was the Grey's and that you were coming on after Grey's on that network, and it was hard to hang with the big boys.
You guys say you see each other all the time. Do y'all hang out with Sam still? The actor who played Sam? Yeah? Is he a grown man now?
Apparently, I'm the Sam keeper in touch.
Yeah, tell us about Sam.
No, Slade is great. I talked to him before we came here. He was going to try to come, and he was busy working and moving, so he couldn't. He's like 20 something.
And Laura's pregnant.
Yeah, Laura's pregnant.
Otherwise, she would have been here.
And promoting a new movie and a big, her big show.
We're all very close.
Yeah.
Pizza Girl's working, Ikey's working, so that's all good news. Owen Rowan's working, I think.
So what's up with the nicknames? That's another fun thing on the show. You got Big Cat and you have Pizza Girl, Physical Phil, right down here. Is that something, Scott, that you had great nicknames? Did you have a nickname growing up?
Yes, but it was lame. It was Rosie. I literally tried to get them to change it to Spider because I thought that was cool, but I got no traction with Spider. Hey, Spider, the Vietnam vet.
And because you mentioned that you guys talk about this all the time, I mean, now that there's a million shows coming back, is that something you three chat about ever?
You two?
Do you two chat about it ever coming back?
Nothing would make us happier. I don't know.
I mean, I do remember that I remember feeling that I could have spent the rest, like there was the talk of like moving us to Friday, which at the time was like a dead zone. And I was like, if you tell me that the rest of my career is writing for this show for this cast, and on Friday, and only this many people would see it, I would have done it gladly. Yeah. Like that's how special it was. It really was. I sound so pathetic. Like every day I Instagram a different still from October Road to this day. But no, it was, and also just the music was such a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Almost every single needle drop was written into the scripts. Like those songs were in the actual scripts. Like we curated it in a really big way, and that's I think I miss the most.
I just want to say something real quick. I've never seen it done before, and maybe it has been done, but the really beautiful thing when we found out that we were canceled was that these guys pulled together an epilogue, and they gave not only us, but the fans an ending. And I don't feel like you get that often. Most times shows just go away, and you never know what happens to the characters. And I know because we are such a tight group, and it was such a sad thing to see the show go, to have that ending was really wonderful, and something that we really value. Also, all of our crew members came back. Nobody got paid for it. It was all a labor of love, and we did it because we love the show and we love each other so much.
Well, so you guys are talking about how much you love the show, and I will pass the mic down to Jay and Geoff, but you've worked another thing. Is it really that, I mean, can you say that about every show, or this really was special and different, and why?
The one thing I'm going to just steal before I give it to them is that Stults said this to me season 1 because I was green. I've said this before earlier today, so I'm snoozing these guys out. But he said to me, took me under his wing a little bit season 1 in Atlanta, and he was like, he won't remember. He was probably drinking. But he literally said, he's like, this. And one of our drunken emotional talks. He's like, this does not happen ever. So he's like, enjoy this. This is lightning in a bottle. This is a special moment, and it is something that you probably won't ever experience again. And I have to say, I've had many. You totally did say that to me. I think we might have been at Cheetah's strip club or something, having some cocktails. I'm giving away all the secrets now, but. Yeah, the club, exactly.
It's not going to get better than this.
Oh, he meant that.
This dance, remember this.
I thought he was talking about the show. Well, went in my story.
But what is this? What does that mean? What was this?
What a special group.
Yeah, okay, just everybody that worked on it.
Group, and we were all at a very particular time in our lives, maybe less responsibility. I don't know what exactly it was. I was trying to put my finger on it when we were watching it, because I haven't seen it in 10 years. And I was surprised how moved I was to remember what we all did and how much fun we had doing it. So I think it was the group. We were greater than the sum of our parts. Is that how it goes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
We were like Voltron.
Yeah. It's good.
No, that was good.
Scene. So did you guys take anything from the set? Yeah, to remember the show from?
Yeah, what's this puss gave me a necklace, I think, that had my initials on it, and I think I stole that when we did the wrap-up thing.
These guys gave us epic rap gifts. So for the first season, at the beginning of the season, we all got iPods with October Road engraved on them with a whole playlist of every song that was going to be featured or had been featured, which was amazing. I still have mine. We also got for a rap gift for the first season were tennis rackets with the with the guitar strap, all of our character names on it. Still have that. And then the second season rap gift was epic. We all did you guys made albums, and we did in a shadow box, and we all took a photo, and it looked like it was our album cover. It was.
We made an October Road, like an album that had all the names of all the episodes on it, as if it was a playlist of the album. So it had the feeling that it was like a kind of like a gold record, but with the names of the episodes, it was a nice keepsake. Scott Rosenberg, ladies and gentlemen, Spider.
Teachable moment.
The
Geoff.
only thing I remember teaching Rebecca was I was like, come with me, and we pulled my truck or my rental car up to the craft service trailer, and we stole a bunch of shit. I was like, this is what you need to know about acting. Just put your arms out, and I was stacking waters on her arms. Yeah.
You can have a banana every day.
That's amazing. I want to open it up for questions too. Does anybody have a question? Yes, right here. Could everybody hear that? She was talking about the shut-in and the references to 9/11. Here, I'll pass the mic, so more mics.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, the three of us were working on something together around 9/11. Obviously, like everybody, incredibly affected by it, and yeah, we were trying to figure out how to speak about it, how to create a character that's been affected by it, but do it in a way where you know that there could be a healing. You know, again, he's shut in, but like we saw in this episode, ultimately it was about him getting outside. And so we thought he was sort of a nice metaphor for how a lot of people felt at that time, which is sort of withdrawing from society, but there'd sort of be a hope and something to root for that he could come out the other side. And then when we cast Jay, again, because there was a version of this character that could have been like just plain creepy, you know, like, and truly, you know, and so. No, but Jay was such a revelation to us because, again, there's such a sweetness and a lovability to him and a vulnerability and all that stuff. So that was such a gift to that Jay stepped into that part. And
it's weird. The network didn't give us any blowback on that either because the show is sort of, it's set in like its own time. There's no real references to the world at large. Really no pop culture references at all. And then except for this, obviously, the big one, you know, and they didn't, right? They never gave us any pushback on that.
They dug it.
But then it was also like, how are you going to tell the story? And then I think we knew from the beginning that, I mean, who is he going to, we'd love to have a romantic storyline, but how can he? He never leaves the house. And then, so when we came up with the idea of Pizza Girl, it was like gold. I always say, like, for me, that I love everybody. I love the cast so much, but writing for Physical Film Pizza Girl was my jam. It was my favorite. Another thing I could have spent my entire career doing is I still write for them sometimes. It's really weird. It's like Linda gets these letters. It's like from 7 with this like thing. And
why? Just because it was something you had never seen? It's so different.
First of all, they were amazing, but also they had a heightened level of. There's a few examples of just even in the episodes. There's some silly dialogue. And we didn't rein ourselves in as much as we should have sometimes. But for them, with those two, you were sort of allowed to push it because they were in this sort of alternate reality kind of. So I think we were allowed to get more flowery and more ridiculous, and it was just, and they were trapped. They were stuck in that space.
The scripts are awesome. I mean, the phrases that the kids, kids, but they said. I mean, it was great. There's some great lines in there. They're so smart. I was talking with Odette. I mean, it's just you didn't play down at all, and I loved it because everybody was smart. That wasn't a question. It was a comment. Question? I can't see. Yes.
In terms of like if it had been canceled, what would you have actually done in terms of drawing out the mystery through Sam's father or when the relationships ended up
So she wants to know what they would have done as far as the mystery of who Sam's father was.
I don't remember talking about how we were going to stretch that out. I remember one big decision we made. Again, it was 10 years ago, so trying to piece it all together. But one thing I remember us talking about was the series ended with Hannah and Big Cat's engagement party, so we would be building up, if there were a third season, to their wedding. That was going to be a big centerpiece of the season.
She fell in love with she kissed the little brother at the end of the finale.
Right, Nick's little brother.
So there was that. I just watched the finale last night. And I was surprised at how there was a lot of, I can't remember any of it now, but there was a lot of stuff queued up for, we did have the conversation because I think you guys felt very strongly that, because I was like, let's not reveal the paternity ever, like but these guys, because they were much more experienced in television than I was, they were like, you can't keep doing that to an audience, like at a certain point. So I think the plan was originally to end it.
To do it sooner than later, I'm sure. Yeah. And it's funny because that whole plot line, it wasn't as integral to the show when we first conceived the show. If you remember, it was almost a last-minute addition. Like, this was really about him returning back home and, dealing with his friends and Hannah and all that stuff. And it was really, I think, in one of the final drafts where the idea clicked to raise the specter that Sam could be his kid and because we felt like we were reading it and it was cool and it was emotional, like it didn't have that little hook at the end of the pilot.
We didn't say we had to cement Nick staying in town, and something as big as that,
a burning question that he had to answer.
As that was the thing that was emotionally just going to lock him into town and be like, I can't leave until I know this. And I think yes.
Yeah, and then it just took on this life of its. Then everything became about it at some point. But yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the pilot, but the whole a big clever reveal was because Nick had a peanut allergy, and which is very, very hereditary. And then so at the end of the pilot, Sam was like, "I got a peanut allergy," and like da 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 da, cue the music, and like, oh my
Again,
God.
you wonder why we were canceled.
J.J. Abrams sued us for being too clever and awesome.
I like the peanut allergy because now everybody does have a peanut allergy, but that was not as common 10 years ago. You were, and now you're not allowed to bring peanut butter to school. Ahead of your time. Was there another question? I couldn't see. Yes. You're like me.
We got one.
Yeah.
You and Scott should FaceTime. You guys could.
You should be up on the panel.
Yeah, by the way, you should be.
You're our first winner of October Road.
Oh, wow.
You deserve a jacket, actually.
That was a great jacket.
Yeah, that's right.
That's awesome.
These were the rap gifts from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
See how easy we are? Just gush.
That's awesome.
We make better gear than shows.
So after I binge watched it again, the music just hit me so hard. I just put it all on my playlist on Spotify and I listen to it at work every day. And is that the music that you like to listen to? Is that how you picked it for the show? I mean, I may have missed that if Sarah already asked it.
I remember Scott. I mean, a lot of it is credit to Scott. I mean, it was stuff that we were all listening to, but Scott very early on said like this should be a huge part of the show. And I remember, I think it was in the middle of the first season, he just put together for the two of us this massive playlist of like it was separate from the iPod that we gave everybody, but this massive playlist, and we would just be listening to all these songs, and literally it would sometimes, the songs would inspire scenes, sometimes you'd be, when a scene came, like, oh, this is where we'd use the song, but we literally, when he says we would write the songs into the scripts, it wasn't just like, now we play X and such song, literally we would put each line of dialogue and where we wanted it to hit, each song lyric and where we wanted it to hit over each moment in the show. It was really constructed to go hand in hand with the music.
And I think it really helped the directors that were coming in, that were directing those episodes, to really understand what like the mood and the tone and the feel of those scenes was really supposed to be. And I'm sure even for these guys, hearing the music and being able to play the soundtrack to the scene that they were about to engage in, it really did. It really just
It got everybody in the same mindset.
And I'm still mad at ABC for canceling.
Give her another jacket.
We're going to give her Geoff Stults.
You win. I don't know. That could go either way for you. Hey, I'm just gonna say something real quick. I have to go. I gotta go get your flight. So thank you guys for caring about our little show and showing up and making these guys feel good about themselves. They needed it, especially the one in the middle. And to you guys, thank you, man. This is a great part of my life. I appreciate it. Love you guys. Sorry, guys. All right, ask some great questions. Let's go the hard ones now.
Two quick questions. One, Odette, did Charlie get to have to sleep?
Hilarious. Give him a shirt. Yes, Charlie finally got the F to sleep. She's very cute. Thanks for asking. I'm crying. Geoff just made me cry. I'm very emotional right now. I'm not pregnant. I hope.
Will you explain who Charlie is?
Oh, Charlie's my daughter. She's a year and a half, and she's very sweet. On Instagram,
Featured on Instagram.
Yeah, she's heavily featured. It's my family on Instagram, basically. But she has a problem going to sleep, and there's this book called Go the F to Sleep. No one cares. No one cares. Anyway. Yes.
I'm curious about the audition process for actors. Is that a separate skill than doing the actual job?
That's a great question. Yes. Yeah, kind of, right? Auditioning is the worst. It really is so terrifying, and most of what you do in the audition isn't what you end up doing on screen, I find. And most of the time, the dialogue changes. For example, I did a movie called Cloverfield, and my audition scenes had nothing to do with the actual movie itself. I think there were alias sides, actually. Yeah, it's a really hard process, and back in the day, now, you audition and then you have to test for the role. Now you get to test in front of a camera, and there isn't about 40 people watching you normally. But back then, you had to audition with, it's a live audition, and if you mess up and if you get nervous, that sort of counts. So it's not the greatest thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is a good question. It does suck. Sorry to, but it does. It's difficult. I mean, I think Jay will probably have a much more lighthearted answer, maybe. That, trying to enjoy the moment. And, it's hard being an actor when you're not on a gig regularly. So maybe taking that opportunity to just enjoy creating the character and having fun for those 5 minutes that you get to act. I mean, that's how I try to look at it. But sometimes nerves get the best of you and you want the gig so bad that it's just, it can, that can override, the nerves and stuff can override the experience. But, yeah.
I think, sorry, I'm going to take it one more time. I remember watching something that Bryan Cranston had said. He said something, and I'm not quoting him, but he said that he, when he used to audition, obviously he doesn't need to now, but he said that he creates the character that he sees fit for himself on the page, and he goes in and he performs, and then he leaves it in that room, and that's done. And that was comforting for me, because you sometimes try to think about what other people are going to do or what they think you should do. The best, I mean, when I found that I've gotten jobs is when I just perform the way that I think the character should be. That's, you know, and you just sort of settle into it, and that's when I've gotten the most jobs.
It's very hard. No, it's, you know, it's funny though. It's difficult in its own way, because a lot of the time, you know very quickly if the person is right or not right at all, and you know that they've put in all this time to prepare and, you know, put their heart and soul into it. But you could be sitting through a whole audition where 2 seconds in you knew that there really isn't a chance that this person is right for it. Then at other times they can pleasantly surprise you. I mean, one funny, not directly answering your question, but one funny story vis-a-vis October Road was Stults originally came in to read for the Nick Garrett part. And he literally walked in and he was like, so my agent sent me here to read for Nick. He's like, nobody's gonna believe I wrote a book, much less ever read a book. He's like, but there's this other guy, Eddie Lateca, and I'm Eddie Lateca. And we weren't casting for Eddie yet because we needed to, you know, cast Nick and then Eddie afterwards. And we said, but he read for Eddie, he wouldn't read for Nick, and he crushed it. And we were like, you're fucking amazing. When we get back around to it, we'll keep you in mind. I don't think we ever read anybody but Geoff. We were just like, that's Eddie Lateca, and he totally came and grabbed that role.
On the side of casting, it is there's a feeling that you get when people walk in, and I think this cast, sometimes actors act, and sometimes actors just live the parts, and they are the parts. These guys were all the parts. They really were the makeup of the town. And if we had been out having dinner or having a drink somewhere, Geoff was being Eddie, and Odette was being Auburn. They were all just sort of who they were. So sometimes you're just, when you're there, you're looking to find sort of the essence of who the character is, and if that actor owns that inside. And all these guys did.
But also, as a writer, it's you go through that process and you start to doubt yourself, because you have actor after actor after come in, and either they're not very good, or and then you're like, wow, this material is terrible. Like, you start to really question the material, and then all of a sudden the one comes in who actually says it the same exactly way you pictured it, the way you heard it in your head when you were writing it, and that's the big enjoy. That's when you finally find them, and it's the best feeling in the world. But it's a process, and we particularly, because we do a bunch of stuff together, we're just dicks about it. Like, we drive casting directors crazy, because casting directors just want to get everybody cast and move on to their next show. And we're just like, no. And the one thing, like all the stuff that we've done, the one thing I can truly, not all the writing has been great, but the casting has been really, really dead solid perfect.
We are running out of time, but I want to say thank you so much. But I want everybody, before we do the big, because I mean, it really is cool. I loved this show, and I was so sad. And it is so cool to be able here at the ATX Television Festival 10 years later, you know, being here, watching it together. It is TV camp. So quickly, I want everybody to go down the line. This is a fun TV question. I'm putting you on the spot. If you went to camp with the cast of any TV show, like they were your bunkmates, who would it be? Start at the end.
I'll say Deadwood.
Whoa.
Baywatch.
Oh, yes.
It's like the easiest question in the world.
Do you guys have, you want to go? Do you want to answer? No answer? We could also answer the question of who would be your camp counselor. Any TV character, if that's more fun to answer.
Geoff Probst.
Abe Vigoda from Barney Miller.
Jay, you can take them all. I have no idea. October Roadcast. That's
yes. We'll end it there. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much
for coming.